Happening, my fellow conspirator? It is, of course, I, your boy, Matty Milligan, and this is the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Woo! Today, we are talking about the best lead follow-up strategies to maximize sales in 2020 and beyond. I want to mention really quickly though, tomorrow we'll have our first interview on this show, which is awesome. The guest that I have is a 2 Comma Club earner, super cool dude, super knowledgeable, lots of experience. So check that out tomorrow because this will be the first other person that we will have on the show, and there are many other interviews I have coming up over the next several months with 2 Comma Club winners. But today we are talking about lead follow-up strategy. This is a huge thing, especially in the world of sales funnels. People think the difference is it's like, oh, I can have, instead of having a website, I can just throw up a few web pages and just walk them through the steps, where it's like, hey, on page 1, do this, page 2, do this, page 3, do this. The thing about funnels is that people fall off really easily. And that first point of contact is not necessarily going to convert them into a subscriber or a buyer right away. So you need to have follow-up strategies. This is why you want some sort of freebie funnel where you're giving something away for free and building an email list. But not just an email list, that's good, but email open rates, as you've probably seen, click-through rates and open rates have dramatically gone down. And one of the reasons is that marketers ruin everything, and everyone knows about email marketing and how effective it is, but so many people just spam and they don't utilize it properly, but there's still money to be made. In fact, lots and lots and lots of money to be made in email marketing and with your list. There's other follow-up strategies where you can collect a different piece of their contact information from them, whether that be their phone number, whether that be you get them onto your Facebook Messenger bot list. You want to get them on something where you can follow up with them, right? The way I like to do this is when people opt in, I like to send them a series of what are known as indoctrination emails, or the soap opera sequence, which is fine. I personally like to call them relationship building and trust building and nurture sequences. I like the relationship one though, because again, it's like, you don't know me at all. You don't know what I am. Like, here's what I have to offer. Maybe it'll have value for you, but I'm just going to put what I have out there. If you like it, awesome. Maybe we can do some business together. Maybe you can become a client or a customer of mine, which is awesome. But if you don't like it, that's awesome too, and you can be on your own way. But the point of all those emails, again, is you just automatically follow up with people. Like, first email is usually just some sort of welcome, and then from there you want to just share your backstory about what you do, really just share your how you were, where you were before, where you are now, and basically just talk a little bit about the strategy that on how you got there. This also gives you a chance to share case studies and testimonials with your customers in that. And a lot of people even then won't buy. Even if they go in, they opt in, they watch maybe a video on the second page that has a special offer. It's like a self-liquidating offer, I guess. And maybe they don't buy. That's absolutely fine. And the follow-up doesn't get them to buy. That's absolutely fine. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make, and I've made this myself many times, is they don't have some sort of email blast strategy, and they don't have those weekly or daily emails that they're sending to people based on new topics. And at the same time, I see people that do send them their customers emails, but it's always like, oh, sale, 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 like discount this, buy this, like till Monday we have 30% off this specific product, buy now. And people are so bombarded by those emails that it's very hard to break through and actually get their attention and get them to convert. And you might get a few people to do that, people that are really like what you do, but I've seen some people where they claim to have very high open rates, and then they'll show me stuff and it'll be less than 1% with the click-through rate or the open rate or even the buy rate. So some people do exaggerate how they do in terms of those email blasts. But I knew the first time that when I realized that how powerful sending those emails really are, it was when I was working at Dyson, and we'd all been so secretive about launching this new product, which was their hair dryer. And I was with the digital marketing team, and they'd written out this email that morning, and they're like, all right, we're going to send it at, I think it was like 2 or 3 p.m. And they schedule it, and I remember them just clicking send, and I've never seen emails blow up. I've never seen phone numbers blow up. I've never seen the WorldPay account blow up that much. Sending one email to your list with something that they deeply desire, that is super effective, right? And this was a product where so many people are like, oh, I want you to make this product. So if you're building an email list right now, let's say you're doing affiliate marketing and you are building an email list, customers are going to start to ask you to create products that they want, that they haven't seen in the market. And when you notice those patterns, it's like, okay, I think we're onto something here. Let's actually go out and create that specific product and offer and make an irresistible offer for the people that have asked me to create this product. And when you do that, it's just super powerful. In some cases, maybe it's only a few people that wanted the product, so only maybe a few will buy. But even then, getting a few people to buy, if you have a small list, like that could mean a lot to you and really just change your business and really just make it rain as quickly as possible. And this is very effective. A lot of people, they're just collecting email addresses. That's fine. I personally like to, from now on, especially if it's a local business, I like to collect name. So first name, I leave that optional usually, but I'll collect their phone number and their email address. That allows me to send these SMS messages, right? It also allows me to send this new feature I've seen, which is cool. You send these voiceless voicemails or no call voicemails where you send it to someone and it just shows up in their inbox and it's like, oh, you have a voicemail, and they're like, who was this? Like, I don't remember getting a call. And people are very likely to listen to that. I know personally I'm kind of obsessed with cleaning out my own email inbox as well as my voicemail inbox. So if you send that to me, I'm probably going to open that, to be honest. Now, one of the first things that I do with any client when I onboard them, it's like, yeah, I can build you a funnel, I can do your Facebook ads, I can do all your copywriting, but how would you like it if we just brought in some immediate money right away? They're like, yeah, like I'd love that. Like every person is going to want that. This won't work. The strategy I'm about to share, by the way, is only going to work for businesses that have been around for several years who have a customer database. If you're new and you don't have an email list, this is probably not going to work for you. But in some cases, I'll just go with these places. So for example, some gyms that I worked with an F45 gym recently, and we did this, and I didn't even have to build a funnel or do the other stuff. Like this one strategy just completely booked their gym for the next few weeks. And all we did was send an SMS message to their existing list. And I asked them, I'm like, when's the last time you emailed your list, or how often do you email them? And they were kind of like, oh, like whatever. And then I'm like, all right, well, what's your close rate when people come in person? They're like, oh, it's like, like 75% plus. And I'm like, okay. And I'm never going to tell a client like, oh, I don't know if you're being truthful with me. I'm really just going to, that's not kind of the personality I am. Maybe as I get more, maybe as my time becomes more valuable, I will. But this is just something where, again, I'm just going to trust the business owner, be like, okay, you know your business more than I do. Like, I'm really just trying to help you. Sometimes, actually, oftentimes, I'll be like, I just want to help you. So these are the actual rates, right? And they'll be like, yeah, that's it. And again, all I'll do in those cases is it's like, okay, you already have a good sales process, you claim to. So I think that's not the issue here. Like if people are contacting you and booking, then that's the biggest thing. And the problem is like when you'll get leads and you have an appointment where someone needs to them to get to show up in person, those are tricky, right? So that's when having them on, sending that message where it's like, hey, we're going to give you a free, what was it? I think it was like a free month at our facility, plus you're going to get a couple of other smaller things that we're going to include. It was an offer. I think I did some research on Groupon and just found an offer that was already working that people wanted and basically just plugged it in. And I'm like, all right, let's send a text message. And it was like within a few seconds, it was so many people were just calling them and just using their scheduler to book their in-person appointment. Now, that's one thing where you're going to book lots of appointments doing that, but you need to follow up on those appointments, right? It's like you need to follow up with your leads, but you also need to follow up with those appointments to make sure that people show up. My dentists, their admin team is super efficient with this. Like a week before, it's like, hey, you have this thing coming up, and they send me a text and an email at the same time, so they're hitting me on two different channels. And it's like, hey, you have this meeting coming, or you have this meeting coming up, or I guess what are they called? You have this dentist appointment coming up on next Friday. Type yes or type no. If you type yes, you can book in. If you type no, we can reschedule for you. And you have the option to either email or text them. And all you do is that. And then the day before, they're like, hey, don't forget, you have an appointment tomorrow. And then I think a few hours before, they're like, hey, you have an appointment at there. You know, we're just confirming that you're there. And it's all automated stuff. It's all just automated text messages and emails that are being sent. And it just saves them a lot of time because that's really why a lot of businesses, I think, don't succeed. It's like they can't completely fill up their appointments. So if you are a dentistry out there, like you need to have those follow-up sequences because you know how people are with flaking on their dentist appointments. It happens a lot, right? And it's not just kids, it's adults as well. So it's anyone. So you need to have those follow-up things in sequence. But see so many people when they're just sitting on their email list. It's like restaurants when I go in and they have the little giveaway fishbowl there, and I'm like, wow, like you got a lot of cards in there. What do you do with them? And they're like, oh, well, you know, we take them and then we just throw them in this filing cabinet back here. And you're like, all right, like then what? And they're like, oh, they just kind of stay there. And it's like, so let me get this straight. Like you have all of these email addresses and phone numbers and you're just sitting on it. And they're like, yeah. Like, is that bad? And it's like, dude, you're sitting on free money right now. That's why I usually start with like this is my first thing with any existing business when they're like, man, we're just struggling right now. It's like, all right, cool. Well, let's make it rain for free. I think Frank Kern talked about this in the past where he's like, yeah, it's always the first thing we do. Where he's like, the best way to just bring in immediate money is to just contact your current existing customers of buyers and sell them something else. Or I think it's, what is it, double your prices. And then the third one, he's like, oh, just email them, email your non-buyers, all your subscribers, and just be like, hey, when can you come in for your next appointment? Or we're giving away this free next 30 days at the gym, for example. Get that right now for, oh yeah, that's right. It was like 29 bucks that we charged. It wasn't something free. It was like 29 bucks. Like they still got a free, I think, 5-day pass from what I remember. But then it was like a month at the same time for 29 bucks. And again, this gets people in the door. They go for that first month. They start getting results. They see that they start staying on track. Again, they start becoming a part of that gym community as well. And that's essentially what you need to do. But making sure you're following up with people because your website is kind of, it's okay to have a website and you're collecting leads, but you need to follow up with those leads. I see a lot of sites where, again, they have that subscribe. It's like, hey, subscribe to our newsletter. But it's like, okay, but what's your newsletter strategy? And people are like, I have no clue what sort of content to actually email people. So what I would do is with your nurturing or those Seinfeld emails where you're sending maybe 2 or 3 or 4, or heck, if you're sending them every day, start sending those out, but don't have them where it's like, hey, here's an offer. Like have that as maybe your first one, again, for the text message one. It's like super effective. But when someone gets on your list, like when you create a piece of content, email your list about it. Be like, hey man, I just created this podcast episode on maximizing your list, and send that to your list. Or again, it's like, hey, I just created this video on best lead follow-up strategy to make more money in 2020. Send that to your list. And when you send them a few of those emails, they're like, wow, this person's not just spamming me. Like it seems like they actually care about me. And again, that's going to build trust. It's going to solidify that bond between you and the other person and improve your relationship. And then when you do end up making them an offer, they'll be very likely to reciprocate because you brought them value first. I hope all of that makes sense. So if you're sitting on your list right now, you need to just email them and make them a quick offer. Again, build some value with them. Send them that text message if you do have all of your buyers' phone numbers or even your leads who never booked an appointment. Just get them to help work with them and help them sign up as fast as possible. That's really what I would recommend in terms of best follow-up strategy. There's obviously the classic calling people. So I bought Frank Kern's book about 3 weeks ago. And some dude who's in Toronto, I think his name is Wes. This dude has called me like twice per week, every single week, like being like, hey, like, well, I want to know why you downloaded the book and what your goals are. And at this point, I'm just going to keep letting him call me to see how persistent he is. Because again, this is the Cardone Kern marketing agency. I think it's cardonekern.com. I'm plugging someone else's stuff, but Frank Kern is known as this big like sales guru, I guess, and he's a master closer and he's like 10x everything. And Frank Kern is more of the marketing guy. So it's like Frank Kern, I'm sure, builds all the funnels and everything, but then Cardone gets his salespeople to just do all that follow-up. I've had it too where I've called people back like a year later after we had the sales meeting, we didn't do business. And I'm like, hey, how's business going? And they're like, oh, like it's been kind of struggling recently. I'm like, oh, like that's right here. Like, what have you been doing? Like, what's happened since we last talked? And they'll usually let me know a little bit more about that, about what's happening, what their goals are. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, do you want my help at this point? And I've made a couple of sales just doing that strategy. Follow up, like all the money in the entire world is in the follow up, but people don't want to do it. They just want to, again, send people to a landing page and get them to buy. This is why following up with people where they go to your checkout, they enter their phone number, and then calling them back on the phone is so effective. You just be like, hey, what's up? It's Maddie Milligan here, CEO of X company, and I noticed that you were placing an order and it looks like it didn't go through for whatever reason. So I'm just calling you right now to get that taken care of. In that case, I'm assuming the sale, which is kind of a hard close, but there was buyer intent at that point, right? They're like, okay, I gave you my email. I went to the second page. I input all of my buyer information. And then for whatever reason, I just didn't buy. In some cases, it's maybe like, oh, my credit card was maxed out. So yeah, I got that cleared up. Let's just get that taken care of right now. So following up with your leads is like, again, it's basically just free money and if you're starting out, you can basically do that as a business model. Like take this and just work with other businesses and help them with their follow-up strategies. And even if you're not a great copywriter, that's absolutely fine. It just needs to be very simple things, right? Like when there's a new piece of content being like, hey, you guys have been asking me about this, so we created this video, here's the link and an image and a screenshot of what that video is going to look like, and you can listen to it on all these different channels, and you're going to learn. And then I usually add 5 bullets about what they're going to learn in that video, and then again I'm going to send them to that video to get them to watch it. And then in that video there's probably going to be no call to action at this point in my content, but eventually you will see more call to action at the end of those things. It's kind of like YouTube videos. You've probably seen people start, if it's a brand sponsored video, for example, they'll either have that at some point in the middle, like a quick 2 or 3 minute brand integration with a bigger YouTube channel, or maybe they'll just have it at the end for like a 2 or 3 minute, like kind of mini sales pitch at the end. I've seen some too where they have these longer videos, because again, I watch mostly YouTube. In terms of my social media, usually longer content that I have on the background that I can just listen to while I'm doing some work. And they'll go on and rant for like an hour and a half, and at the last 5 minutes, it'll basically just be, again, a video sales letter. And they'll put that video sales letter at the end of many of their videos, and that's a super effective strategy as well. But yeah, follow-up is super key. You need to make sure that you're doing this in your business. So if you're sitting on an email list and you haven't spoken with them in a while, probably time you just let them know, like send them an email like, hey, still alive, still doing XYZ, and I thought I'd actually shoot a quick video on this. I'd probably do that for email. SMS, you can send those quick offers and people will buy right then and there. And heck, they might even just call you back to book the appointment right then and there, or send them to a landing page. It's very simple. In terms of the services, like there's Skipio. I personally, that one's okay. It's a very expensive. I like Twilio, and I just plug it into ClickFunnels and then send the broadcast. And there's some other stuff that I use as well, but that's the main thing that I use. And then for emails, I personally just use ActiveCampaign, or I'll use ClickFunnels integration, not with SendGrid, but with Mailgun, and I'll just Mailgun out basically a bunch of those. And I think it's like, it might be a cent per email you send, something like that. I'm not sure. It's very inexpensive to actually send all of these things. And even then, if you're working with a business, they can basically just pay up. And it's so much easier where it's like, okay, like this is the best offer I make. It's like, all right, sir, I'm going to build your funnel, but it's like, hey, do you have an email list? Yes, I do. Okay, cool. Well, here's the deal. You're going to pay me XYZ. I'm going to mail your list and bring in immediate money. And that's going to pay for my first services for the first month. And I'm going to get you, let's say 25 appointments. I'm not going to get you 25 leads. I'm going to get you 25 appointments where people actually show up and pay you money. And they're like, okay. And then I'm like, plus, if it doesn't work, it's free. And they're like, wow. And dude, setting this stuff up for someone like me is so freaking fast. So that's one of the strategies that I used. Hopefully you really enjoyed today's video. And again, I would tune in tomorrow because I will be interviewing a 2 Comma Club winner and a CEO of several companies. This dude is absolutely awesome. So I really want you to check that out. And I will see you next time on another Underground Marketing, another episode. I messed it up again, guys. I will see you next time on another episode of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Consider subscribing, consider watching more episodes, and I will see you next time. Have yourself an awesome day.